Yeah. Okay, we're live. Hey, everybody. We're live on
Yeah,
YouTube. Here we are.
yeah. What's
This
up?
is I'm Joe. This is my brother Ben.
Yep, I'm
And
Ben. This is my brother Joe.
technically this is my show, but Ben ends up helping so much that kind of like it's his show and I'm the
Yeah,
guest.
I'm slowly stealing it away from Joe.
Yeah.
Piece by piece. I'm gonna learn how to paint pretty soon, and then Joe's screwed.
Dude, you already can paint. You already do
Yeah,
know how to paint. That's the thing people don't know is that you're a natural artist as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
How much mural
yeah.
Joe technique do you think you'd end up using if you did set out to paint something? Because you've
All
edited
of
my
it,
video.
all of it. I would be so well prepared for the
Yeah,
journey of painting.
right.
It would be no problem.
Yeah.
Um, but it's good to see you guys this morning. I see some of you out here. If you want to
Mhm.
hit Joe up while he's painting, just throw something in the chat and I'll keep an eye on it. We'll tell him about it. And,
Give me just a
you know,
moment here to. I think there might be not optimum audio setup because of my little program I forgot to open there. So forgive me if
just
this causes
a
a technical
teensy
thing.
weensy.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. There,
Right.
there. I just this I forgot to open up a little app that controls the audio stuff. So shout at us if there's any technical failure on your end. Shout at us. Let us know. Leave it in the
Yeah.
chat.
Use all caps too. If you use all caps, we'll know it's very important.
We're painting orcas today. There's my canvas. I'm gonna paint orcas, and this is upon request. I'm excited about this. I've never done it before. So these are the moments when I get to, uh, well, hopefully I get to demonstrate that the patterns, the technique I use for learning, observing, reproducing what I see, you know, that they're valid. This is where I get to try to demonstrate that they're valid and that they work because I'm going to tackle something live and try to call my technique before I use it. And if it
That's
doesn't
it.
work, then you get to call it, see, you get to see it not work.
Where
That's it.
Mule Joe puts his paintbrush where his mouth is, you guys.
Yeah.
That's what you're
Hey,
about to see.
I'm imagining the thumbnail of that video. I'm
Putting your
imagining what
paintbrush where your
that.
mouth is.
Put your paintbrush where your mouth is. But I'm telling you though, there's a lot of art instruction out there where you'd sure like them to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
the good thing about this is we're gonna fail. Joe's about to do
that's it.
some failing, so you guys are gonna watch it live, and
Thanks.
then we're gonna rebound and we're gonna figure out what went wrong. It's gonna
And
be
then
awesome. It's gonna,
now that you said that's going to happen, if it does, it's going to feel scripted. They'll be like, "Oh, they planned that. They planned it.
yeah,
It's scripted,
man. I'll tell
fake."
you what,
Mm.
eggs out here in the wilderness when you're camping. I'll
It's
tell
the
you what,
best.
man, eggs
You
are the
pulled it
best.
off. You got really good
Everything,
internet.
everything
Yeah.
tastes better when you're in the woods.
Yeah, man, agreed. That's true. They say hunger is the best sauce.
Yeah, and I
I've
don't
heard
mess
that.
around either. I bring ceramic plates with me when I camp. You know,
Yeah, nice
is the
work.
kitchen is the
Nice
kitchen's
work.
finest.
I'm jealous. All right.
Um,
Hey,
so it's good to see you guys out there. Good morning, good morning, good morning, Jacob, Leanne,
good
RD,
morning, everybody.
NAC, Jonathan, Tova, Kathleen,
Okay,
Barbara.
sweet. Hey, all right. We got some
5 a.m.
regulars
in the
showing up.
building.
Whoa, nice, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
some of these pictures feel a little bit sad. Okay, so you know, looking at orcas in desperate situations is not happy, but I'm going to use this to study anatomy. Before I set out on my painting, I want to understand anatomy, and this one happens to have a real good model. This is really showing me the shape. They got a forehead that really comes far toward the nose, as opposed to a dolphin, like a bottlenose dolphin. They've got a forehead, a snout that's longer. So I need to, this is a process I do with every picture. This is something I want you to see me do because it's how I do every painting. This is my study method. So I just surf through lots of images. So let me shrink that down. let me see if we can get a feel for the body. And rather than, this would be opposed to just grabbing a one inspiration picture saying, I'm going to paint that. I want to comprehend every curve and turn of the thing that I'm about to paint. And so this is going to be my strategy. So I want to do my best to memorize the curves, the anatomy. And it's not like I've never seen it before. I just kind of want to fine tune my short-term memory as we get going. And I got to decide.
You know what's interesting here is I was just listening to a podcast a bit ago about how there's a lot of buildings over in the Ukraine that are gone now, gone forever, right? War-torn places. All this architecture is gone forever. So there was this company that is taking pictures of the buildings from multiple angles.
Yeah.
Or like historic pictures of these buildings and then compiling them into 3D renderings and then printing that building so that it forever exists in reality again. And that's kind of the same thing you're doing here, right? You're like scanning the Orca from this side, from that side, from that side.
Yeah,
kind of
that is, yeah, it's not like my, I would say unlike I'm going to say the cuss word, it's unlike the AI method that just does like a compilation of everything it's like understanding based on everything it's ever seen. I would say that I'm trying to develop a real 3D understanding. So I keep failing to open this picture. It keeps closing on me. But there was one that I saw here. I really want, this. Like this open mouth picture. Let me move Ben's little window out of the way here.
Get my big head out of the way, man.
Okay, yeah. So this one here, I want to see. So this teaches me some things. I don't want to paint this picture, but this tells me the three-dimensional shape of the eye sockets in their relation to the snout. This is a helpful thing, is to see how they bump out. In other pictures, I just see a black shadow. I don't see that eye shape. And this is real similar to a whale, to a dolphin. There seems to be a commonality of the eye occurring right at the back corner of the mouth instead of above it. It seems like, there's a whole family of creatures with this kind of shape. So it's not like it's a brand new thing for me. So this is going to help me when I'm developing the shape, because I'm going to decide logically where to put reflections and light and shadow. I'm not going to use a photo reference to decide where to put reflections and light and shadow. I'm just going to 3D model it, So I want to learn the 3D model. That's a cool picture. Tells me a lot about the inside of the mouth, but I think I'll do that. This makes me more afraid of orcas, I can tell you that.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with orcas, man. You know what orcas do? Orcas, they like target boats, like if you're in this bay and the orcas don't want you in this bay, they'll like team up on you and they'll go mess with your boat, try and like capsize your boat. They teamwork.
They really will do that. Yeah, they're known to be real strategic, intelligent creatures, right? They really think about what they're doing and have strategy. They have thought out strategy. Yeah, really fascinating. And I can imagine that being somewhat nerve-wracking when you realize that you're in their crosshairs. They're like, we don't like you.
Dude, I recently had my arm bit by a dog,
really?
a dog, like a dog attacked me and
no
wanted
way.
to rip my arm off.
And
it's
big?
a strange feeling. Yeah, it's like a 30, 35-pound dog.
Whoa.
It's a strange feeling to know that an intelligent brain is after you, is like problem solving as to how to take you down. That's a strange feeling.
Yeah.
And it happened in an instant, but still,
Right.
Respect for the predators of the world, man.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, man, I'm nervous around dogs. I have yet to get a full-on bite in the arm. That's pretty intense. So
yeah, it was weird. It hit me once, and then he got pushed away by its owner, and then it came back and lunged at me a second time because it was
so this was out.
We are not.
This was out in public, and so the owner allowed it to happen. Dude, that's hard to forgive. That's a hard one for me to forgive. I always have trouble not being vengeful toward dog owners.
Dude, I was thinking yesterday, the expression once bitten, twice shy takes on new meaning for me now.
Man,
So
that's
anyway,
intense.
adventures in Predator Land.
Yeah. So how's your arm looking? Is it all scarred up?
It's got a few scars on it yet.
Let's see it. I want to see the.
I'll be all right, though. I'll be all right.
Okay. All right.
You know, Joe, you and me, we've been through things. We've had some bumps and bruises. We've healed from some scrapes.
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
Hey, what's up from Ontario? I see some Ontario in the building. Also some Puerto Rico up in here. That's cool.
I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to type in beautiful Orca scene. Okay. Because I want some inspiration.
Tired of seeing seals ripped to shreds, orcas with flopped over dorsal fins.
Let's get some inspired. Let's do the carnage and the beauty. Let's do both.
Oh yeah, there's Joe beauty and destruction.
Oh man, I don't think that's real. I don't think that's a real picture. What do you think? Real or not real? It's a shame that we have to decide these days if something's real or not. But what do you think? That's a tough one.
You know,
it's
anyways. Philosophy is too early, and I haven't had enough coffee. So
yeah, well, this splash is extremely convincing. Your internet signal, or my internet signal, kind of silenced out your last comment there. But
yeah,
I'm sure
probably for the better. Probably for the better.
I'm sure it was a very good and valid comment.
I have nothing but really intelligent things to say most of the time, for sure.
Well, I'm tempted to paint like a jumping scene, a scene of
breaches are great. I like a good breach.
Yeah, but I want to do the underwater. The underwater is a fun thing. All right, let's see what we can whip out on a canvas. We've been looking at orcas. Right. If anybody has any inspiring ideas for our orca scene, but for me to put it in, I need it to be somewhat relevant to an orca scene.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, let's try it. Let's go over here and start painting something.
Well, RDNAC is into orcas.
Nice. Okay, cool.
They're beautiful.
All right, sweet. Let me get a little bit smaller brush. I'm going to use a bit of a smaller brush to sketch my scene first. Somewhere in here I got one. Here's one. Here's one. All right. Give it a little rinse. Do we got a camera there? Yeah, we do. We got a camera. So here's my palette I'm going to mix on. We'll put some black and just get the scene laid out. So, this is something I've never done before. So what's on my mind right now is, should I go true black on my shadows? Should I go all the way to my darkest black? Or should I grade that black with the underwater color? It's it's a decision to be made, because you get a real nice, let me see what that loud noise was. Just something fell, but I don't think it's a big deal.
Hey, it's the magic of live television,
You got stuff falling apart.
That's just someone putting a brick through the window.
Yeah, no big deal. As long as
Leanne says orcas have maybe killed a human one time in the wild. Not confirmed. So.
All right. I think I'm going to go a little further down.
Seems like we feel that the orcas have perhaps been demonized a bit.
Okay. I hear you.
A bit too much.
Maybe they have, but a person, never mind. I'm not going to argue with that. I think it's a good point. That's a good point.
I mean, it's also relative, right? Like, who's going to say, no, they've not been demonized, or yep, they have.
Yeah.
What's the metric on that? How are we going to
measure that? Yeah, right. We don't want to argue that. Well, it's like a conversation about sharks. Some people feel that they are more beautiful than other people feel, like some people just don't want anything to do with them because they look ominous and scary, and other people are like, these are beautiful, beautiful creatures, and they relate to them and they swim with them. And a lot of us are like, forget that, I'm not going to swim with a shark. That thing eats creatures like myself. you know, so
Yeah, there's
to
a
each his own.
certain tendency that some people have to draw nearer to the flame, you know? They know it's
Yeah.
hot. They know it burns. They know it's lethal if you get too
Yeah.
close, but nevertheless,
Yeah.
near,
Right.
near, near.
Okay.
I
Now
don't
we've
I
got
don't know
going.
what that's about.
They have this light oval right here. Yeah. Well, we've I've had the tendency to draw nearer to a flame. It's just how dangerous, how hot of a flame is, probably a question worth asking. I don't feel like I've taken huge risks in my life.
I don't know. That's a lie, dude. I remember being on the other side of a 12-foot plank, stomping down on it as hard as I could so that you would shoot 6, 8 feet into the sky on the other end.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not.
Our catapult was a cool thing that we did. But
And it wasn't anchored in the middle. It wasn't stable. If you jumped on it sideways, the thing spun like a helicopter, and everybody had their head in the sand. It was.
yeah. Yeah. Right. I understand what you're saying, but I think that perception I think my perception of danger was not accurate. Like maybe I would
Yeah.
think longer, harder about that today.
Mm.
So then I don't get credit for being a risk taker, more just credit for young and dumb, maybe,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Guilty.
yeah, like, well,
also guilty.
odds are not in his favor.
So the way the light is kind of like wrapping around that orca, the caucus.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Caucus?
I don't know that word.
No, that when you when sun goes through rippling water.
Oh, caustics.
Caustics.
Yeah, yeah. The phenomenon of the the scrambling of the light.
Yeah, that's pretty cool how that defines the shape of the orca.
Yeah, that's a good effect.
Wrap around it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, because if I don't have that in the picture, then I'm really missing a mark here. Like, that's quintessential to an underwater in the like, what Wyland painting ever left out the caustics? You don't do that.
Right. That's just
you
sacrilege. Sacrilege. You profess to be a painter at all.
You got to do it. So, our previous live stream, we discussed the divine ratio. Any new thoughts on that one? What do you think? Because I'm wondering right now if I'm using it at all. I'll tell you one thing: I'm not consciously saying I'm going to use it here or there. I don't have the capacity for that. But I think it pops up like somewhere as I'm developing the layout of this. I think it tends to pop up like, well, that looks nice because. Then on the other hand, I'm like, yeah, you're just trying to make it fit, Jury's out on that one.
Yeah, thoughts on the divine ratio? Not so much, man. Not so much.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
right now I'm thinking it is dry as a bone here in Arizona.
Dude. Oh yeah, you're in Arizona. Right. You're yeah, nice. That's kind of fun.
Yeah. Who else is here?
Different location.
Prescott. Someone here is in Prescott.
Oh yeah. I don't know if Mavis is on board, but she lives there.
Mavis, there you go. Prescott. What up? This stuff. My nose is like dry as a bone. I'm blowing out red boogers, man.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, because you're acclimated to ocean climate. I forgot. About
man,
that.
I
Yeah.
went from 80% humidity on the coastline to 30% humidity here in the desert.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's an adjustment. Yeah, because your body's got to get comfortable where you are, so it makes all these changes. It's like, okay, we're gonna be comfortable at sea level now. Adjust all of the parameters, and then you come up here where there's no water.
Well, we got Lively over here from Pittsburgh too, checking in. Been watching your stuff for years.
Oh, nice. All right, man. Cool. That's good. I love this shape. There's like an arrow left in the negative space of these on the back of an orca. You can see it in the pic I'm staring at right now is over here, but you only see one half. But from the top view, it kind of makes this point you know, it kind of makes this point where the fin is.
Mm.
Yeah. So I love shapes. You know, I'm a lover of shapes. I think it helps me remember them better. And I love these opposed lines. Okay, so there's something beautiful in this kind of a deal here. It causes me to remember it, where this one's swooping this way, this one swoops the other way, like a parallel opposite swoop. You know, it has interwovenness to it.
You know, I find
Yeah,
motorcycles are often designed in this way too, like the graphics on motorcycles, where they have
yeah, some kind of a
sort of like
swoop.
forward leaning angular theme to them.
Yeah.
You know, the lines, they tend to make the object look like it's leaning forward, parallel lines in that way. It's very attractive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
this
right.
is also speculation, but it seems like our human eye is drawn to designs and shapes that reflect organic references, right? So like there's like
Yeah.
a really aggressive stance of a truck. It's got, you know, big wide wheels, and it's got a wide stance, and it's got a big flat front on it. It looks almost broad shouldered, like a rhinoceros or something. Right?
Totally. Yeah.
People
I
say
think they base them off
what
of
an awesome looking truck, but in their head they're
so
thinking,
yeah.
man, rhinoceros looks so strong.
Yeah,
I
there's
love
relatability.
rhinoceros.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I think you're so right about that. And the relationship we have with animals, you know, I say we, I should just say I, but it's just that I'm convinced that it's a universal deal. You know, that's all. I think we look at different creatures, and there's this, like, almost on a divine magical level, there's a certain shape, like this really specific shape, that gives us a feeling of relatability, you know?
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
who can invent one?
Yeah, every time I see a fast looking car, you know, a sports car or a coupe or like some just real slick modern engineering thing that just looks like it would just fly through the air.
Yeah.
All I see are fish, you know? I see
Nice
dolphins,
fish,
I see
dude.
orcas.
Yeah.
You know,
That's totally what they are.
Fish.
Yeah. And I think if you look at the skull of, I think a good example is a savanna monitor lizard. To me, this is a fundamental design, or like the skull of a large cat. This is race cars, you know, like the wheel well seems to match the curve of the jaw structure, the eye sockets, the whole thing seems just inspired by, not copied.
An F1 race car and a hammerhead shark look just the same to me.
Whoa, now you're getting out there. F1, a hammerhead shark, I don't see car in it. Is because the way the front extends out is kind of like wheels. Yeah, right. You know, I was just looking at him. I was just looking at a hammerhead, and here I'm changing subject. I'm adjusting the angle of this dorsal because perspective is a high priority to me. So I'm tipping it until it feels like, and I am just going by feel on this, and I want it to feel.
I mean, Lively is saying it's already better than anything they could paint, and Leanne is saying this work has really taken shape already. So very quickly here, you've covered a lot of ground.
Good. Well, you know, I feel like this is like if you want to draw a crowd and paint something that people like, do a dolphin or orca, something like this, because the number of shapes and lines is very few. It's a simple shape, and so in a very short time you've got that, which kind of speaks to the whole inspiring shape again. It's like, man, you know, I see nothing but beautiful design in these things. I'm like, what? Like, who can invent such a thing? It's that the curves themselves, just the lines and curves, are inspiring. It's a beautiful inspiration. And I have yet to hear anyone ever explain just what is inspiring about those shapes.
Oh, let me take a swing at it.
Take a swing at it. It looks like an F1.
Yeah. There's more genius where that came from.
Let's hear it. I'd love to hear it.
Well, it seems to me that the design of things is somewhat arbitrary or subjective. Like, why would a square or a circle or a trapezoid, for that matter, be of any interest to the human eye? Right? It just
Yeah,
seems
yeah, right.
it
Yeah.
seems relative, or it seems subjective to the viewer what is attractive. Right? Beauty's in the eye, as they say.
Yeah, yeah.
So why
Okay.
is it that we can commonly agree that a Ford F-150 Raptor looks pretty awesome? That
Yeah.
a Peugeot 206 rally car looks pretty awesome.
Yeah, we agree. There is agreement. Yeah.
Right? It
Yeah.
seems there is an objective
A standard. There is the existence of some
standard, right? So
standard at some point. Yeah.
where does that come from? I think it comes from us recognizing the design of things that work well, that are effective, that have potency, that are thriving in their environment, right? So if a vehicle looks especially fishy and aerodynamic, we think to ourselves, how effective this design, how potent, how easily it must slide through the air, how little resistance it must have. A bird, we look at a bird, we're like, oh, that teardrop shape, how attractive, because it must just slide right through. And we think to ourselves, there's a potency in that, there's an effectiveness, an efficiency, and we're in awe of it. But it's only because of the nature of this physical place. If that design was not beneficial to survival, then we would not be attracted to it. It's not the design that we're attracted to, it's the effect of the design that we're attracted to.
Well, that does make like, I hear where you're coming from, because these are attractive things. Like when you see something sailing through its environment with the greatest of ease, it's like, oh yeah, awesome, it's inspiring. But then I would say that the question is just pushed back. It's not answered, because then you're saying, well, why are we inspired by that? Why do we care that something else besides ourselves is doing awesome? And then
because survival is attractive, power is attractive.
I don't know, I don't think it's attractive when it means your demise. So there's times when, well, like, survival's attractive, but like an alligator chomping me so it can survive is not attractive.
Oh, that's why you want to be the alligator.
So that you can be the one. Okay,
yeah,
that makes sense.
You want to be in a vehicle that you control, that is the alligator.
Yeah. Okay, I can agree with you there. There is that there is that vicarious,
in a vehicle that floats like a bird, like the jet. You want to be in the jet that just looks like a slick little bird that just through the sky,
Yeah. So I can see on that note where you're coming from, but then I still have skepticism on. I'm still skeptical on the point of a child that sees a horse for the first time, even in just a photo. It's like, oh, or like a cute little kitten. If you've ever tried to create cute, it's really hard. Creating cute is hard, So there seems to be an instant reaction based on the image itself, the shapes, the lines, that has this kind of effect. This is the part.
Well, it's instinctual, That's what I'm suggesting, is it's instinctual. We feel it in a primal way. The cuteness of something young and fragile, or the power of something well engineered and
perhaps.
And Mavis just disagrees entirely that a Ford F-150 Raptor is even attractive. So there you go.
There you go.
It's completely subjective.
But there are things we all agree on. I mean, well, let's say there are things that are very universal when it comes to beauty. There are things that are very universal. Not too many people would prefer a concrete cell over a sunset over the ocean. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, here's an interesting angle that Epitome Hawk just brought up is, if we're trying to understand what is, let's understand what is not. Think about the opposite, the uncanny, they say. We're wired to react with disgust to something that is not right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right.
Same. There are principles that draw us in, but equally there are principles that repulse us.
Okay. Yeah. Opposite, kind of an opposite extreme. Okay. I like that. Train of thought. It
Yeah,
seems
well,
to me like there's
anyways,
a
that's fun food for thought. Lively says their problem personally. I'm kind of the kite string here on the day, guys. When Joe's gonna fly around, I'm gonna be that kite string to see if I keep us attached to the ground with your
that's good.
questions and
Yeah, that's
comments.
good. That's good. Because we're
Lively
talking
says
about
their
stuff we
problem
don't know.
personally is that they overthink a lot. Man, I feel you there. And always second guess the shapes. So they overwork it. They just need to keep things simple.
Yeah. Well, shapes matter a lot. They either, so we have this hypersensitivity to perspective, and it really shows up when you get a slight change. Like I was messing with this dorsal fin because that slight tilt, we're only talking about a little millimeter, but that tilt caused it to look like something not native to the shape of this creature.
Yeah.
So
Leanne is commenting that dorsal fin, she wants it to be a lot bigger, right? So there's a sensitivity to even just the shape and size of that dorsal fin.
Okay. She's seeing a little bit of runtiness on the dorsal. All right, I'll take that. Take that input. Let's see if that looks better. Oh, look, this one doesn't even have one.
This one doesn't even have one. Bob Marley said you can please some of the people some of the time, but you can't please all the people all the time.
Yeah, okay. Can you sing the song? How's that one go?
I don't know, man. I don't even know if it's Bob Marley. I might have just made that up.
It sounds really good. I like it.
Somebody said it. I didn't say it.
Yeah. I remember.
I said it. I said it, but I didn't say it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's some kind of a age-old system for beauty that has been followed. That's what it intuitively looks
in our DNA for sure.
Yeah, like it's a standard. It is a standard. However, it is also a standard subject to relativity. I wouldn't put it completely in the category of things are or are not beautiful, because I think both exist.
Of course not completely objective. Does a blade of grass sit there in the morning dew and look at its neighbors with little beads of glistening water and say to itself, "It's a beautiful day"?
You just got really poetic there. That was like major.
Does it? I don't know if it does. Does an orca float through the water and think to itself, "My, the water temperature is lovely. How clean"?
I wonder. That I can only wonder. They're smart enough to do strategies.
The point I'm getting at is: are humans the only perceivers of beauty?
Oh, that's a tough question. I don't know the answer to that one.
Well, that's to your point, right? Is beauty an objective, yes, always it exists, hands down thing? Or is it partly because of something beholding its beauty? And are we the only things that remark on beauty and therefore define that it's even a thing?
Yeah.
Like, is the reason humans exist so that beauty can exist?
Oh, interesting. I don't know that, but these are good. Beauty, I think beauty is I was just listening to a podcast where it's a George Orwellian thought, like George Orwell's 1984, and other writings that are similar. This person was a lot smarter than me on writings that have brought up the topic, but the elimination of art is a key component in making a society subservient. Just get rid of that quest for beauty. So it does something. It inspires, and so when you have inspiration, it's like, what a mysterious thing, but what a very, very cool and precious thing. Like we want it.
Well, Epitome Hawk tries to demystify beauty by saying form and function lean towards beauty. The higher the function, the more the beauty.
Yeah, that's oversimplified.
Maybe an alignment of form and function inspires a perception of beauty.
I don't, I think that reasoning is good. I like the reasoning, but for me, it's incomplete because it doesn't account for the ugly thing that is functioning very well we have that in existence. We have ugly things that most people don't want decorating their living room. That's kind of my standard for, is it ugly? Do you want it on your wall?
Everybody can get on Google right now and be like, ugliest dog ever. And they just Google that, and then some like crazy dog with some, tongue hanging out of its ear is going to pop up, and, it'll have a silly, happy look on its face, and, it's living its best life. And that's beautiful.
There's going to be an argument for who gets to decide what the ugliest thing is. Yeah. There's going to be an argument.
Form all screwed up, barely functional, but loving life. And there is some beauty,
Right. Let's put some underwater here. It's a great question, but
we got Raymond all day up in the building now. Welcome. Also,
nice.
What's up, Bearded in the house.
Well, I think I've been saying that Raymond Audette. I think I've been saying that wrong for a long time to myself.
I mean, I just assumed it was all day. I don't know.
That sounds right to me. That sounds like a really good guess.
Raymond, what is it, man? Audette or Auday? Help us out here.
Yeah.
Here we are talking about you like you're not standing right next to us.
Yeah.
Hey, so what do you think about Raymond anyways, huh?
What do you think with it? Yeah. How about those comments? All right. So I've got things kind of oriented down here. This was all done intuitively. I have no special, just in case you like my composition, disclaimer, I didn't use any kind of special trick. It felt like it would look nice. That's it. Is exploring the mystery of beauty. Once again, it's just like kind of leaning back on my intuition, seeing what comes out. That's not to say there's not some great methodical approach to get a nice layout, but in this one, I did not do that.
Well, there's something to that. You just offhand say it. You felt like it would look nice.
That's it. It was just feeling.
I spent a lot of time this week trying to train people around me how to feel when it's right.
Yeah. Boy, how do you train that?
I was doing a lot of video editing, right? So it's like, there's the pace of the cut, how quickly you move from one scene to the next, one image to the next, one piece of text to the next. Timing and pacing are very important. And so there was this issue of things moving very quickly, and moving too fast. And so I was like, well, like what's too fast? What's too slow of a pace? Well, how does it feel? Like you
but that's the most
feel your way through it.
That is true, but it's very frustrating to hear when the feeling's not coming to you and you're looking for some real data to help you along the way. So we're talking about the subjective and objective. Is there an objective correct pace? No. There's only your feeling, the way you are perceiving the beauty or lack thereof, the timing or lack thereof. Like at some point, you have to trust the way you feel about what you're experiencing. Well, is there a balance in the middle? Is there some balance? Is there a balance where you can kind of use a very methodical approach and then test it with how you feel, and then course correct and adjust? I wonder if you kind of have
feelings aren't facts for that very reason,
Yeah, I was listening to this interesting. This guy was talking about some history of color, and I was like a podcast I clicked on impulsively, like, oh, let's see if they're saying some stuff I haven't heard, and it was surprisingly interesting because they were talking about some very famous people in the past having heated disagreement about color perception, because this was before people are using RGB to make computer screens and stuff, and I believe that it was Newton that was coming up with some real developed theories about color. And one guy was in the camp of this is a physiological phenomenon. There is not, everything is not math. And he's like, you love your arithmetic too much. I'm paraphrasing. You love your arithmetic too much, and he's criticizing on that. Well, today movies are made with a huge amount of that. Obviously, the system of screens is using the math of RGB to create. And so this person on that particular note was incorrect, I guess. But it was a heated argument, real heated. Like, you know, at least the guy that I think he was kind of threatened by the world's going mathematical and not listening to feel. And color is something that should be felt, you know. So I tend to reach for the middle ground, you know.
Well, that's just the natural way of it. I mean, there is no escaping that anything we experience is going to be a blend of our perception of it and some perception of all the other beings around us that give some other objective testimony to the thing.
Yeah.
So in layman's terms, you know, you're looking at a sunset. Well, there's the way you feel about it because of what your eyes are telling your brain based on your life experience. But then there's all the other eyeballs looking at it and saying what their eyeballs are telling their brains based on their life experiences.
Yeah.
You know, so there is no purely subjective beauty that you can lean on and say, hey, I feel it, therefore it is, you know. Well, then you're going to be the emperor with no clothes one day. You know?
Whoa, tell me about the emperor with no clothes. I'm not familiar. I don't know what that reference
is. Inversely, if you're like, well, I only trust objective reality, objective truth, you know, what is, regardless of myself, you know, there is a truth and it is irrefutable. Well, now you're discounting the individual experiences of us all, you know, and not taking
right. It's kind of like saying what I perceive as what absolutely is. And,
sure, there you go. Yeah,
that's kind of
it to just you're one and nothing else matters.
You know? Yeah, it's like a profound level of arrogance. Profound in the sense of being as arrogant could possibly ever be. You know,
like 18-year-old boy arrogant.
I am the beginning and end of perception. You know, like this. Yeah, it's like that's a crazy thing to say. Like the way I see it is the accurate, true way, and that's kind of like.
The emperor with no clothes, just briefly for anybody that doesn't know, Joe here, he's saying he's unfamiliar. What
I don't know.
That story is just briefly about an emperor in power, and you know they get this fancy outfit, this fancy new wardrobe, and they go to everyone around them and they say, you know, what do you think of my new outfit? And, it was sold to them by some clever salesman. And so they're wearing this outfit and they're saying, don't I look amazing? And everybody's so scared of the emperor and so eager to just like fall in line and appease them. They say, oh, you look so amazing. You look so amazing. I love your new outfit. Oh, there was money well spent. Look how beautiful you are. And so the emperor just hears all around them that how they look amazing. And so they go out in front of the land and they say, look at my new outfit. How beautiful am I? How wise am I? You know?
Okay.
Well, and then, you know, a child walks up to them and says, Emperor, you're not wearing any clothes.
Okay. I get. All right. I get the theme.
I've butchered it, but in essence, that's the story. You know, if you lean too much on.
It's like people make the joke of selling ice to an Eskimo, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he got sold something and but the truth wasn't really available to that guy.
Right. So if you're so engrossed with your own subjective singular opinion, then you're very easily made blind to what everybody else is seeing.
Very interesting. Okay.
And Raymond says it's not Audet, it's not Audette, it's Odette.
Oh, thank you for the clarification.
Swing and a miss by both of us.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
I mean, we're gonna do what we did over and over. We're not going to change our ways. I can tell you that.
We're too old for that. Let's just make fools of ourselves. That's much better.
I keep butchering stuff. That's what we're going to do. Hey, people don't tune in to see us nail it. People aren't tuning in to see us nail it down right now.
Nah, man, you just get on. You want to hear nailed? Listen to some Bach, some Mozart.
Yeah.
You want to see some fumbling around?
Yeah.
Watch Mural Joe.
Fumbling around. Well, so far I don't think I've done any big fumbles here. Although the colors of these killers are going to have to be modified because they don't blend into the atmosphere. So they're really going to need some blue added to the black. So I use the old atmosphere trick. You know, add more of the watercolor to the black. As very simple concept.
Eel atmosphere trick.
Yeah, the further something away is, the further something away is, forgive me for terrible grammar there. The further away a thing is, the more atmosphere you add to make it look like it has atmosphere between that thing and you. And so this is just a simple principle that's highly effective. Sometimes you have to do like some color adjustment because you get, when you blend an atmosphere, like if I'm doing a landscape and I start mixing blue sky colors into my landscape, well, it's annoyingly green where I don't want it to be a lot of the time. But that's not going to be the case here. So when we're working with black and blue, I mean, this is super simple. We just add it in and that's it. So to get this feel of getting, deeper water, you can see that I'm adding black to the blue down here. And it's not because that's the right color. It's because compared to this color, I need this one to be more colorful as light is shining into it. So if I go to a real intense deep blue down here, this will look like a fog, not like a light. This distinctly looks like that difference. So it's a very predictable outcome. If you want to have the glow of light coming from your surface, you just need to be sure that there is more color, because light is providing the color, right? I mean, simple kind of reasoning, I guess. So right here, I've added something without the black in it. And if I think the paint's a little too dry to do it, but if I pull these rays down into this paint that I just blended into the deeper water, I can blend this, and what'll make it look like rays instead of just an overlaid fog is that it has color. And then to enhance that effect, if it shifts a little bit to the green, so there's a little dot of my green, that's like a phthalo green. That's what phthalo green. Let's go like this. Zoop. Put that in there. You need that old zoop. There we go. Put some rays coming down in the water. It's not the best rays I ever painted, but that's the system. That's the way you accomplish that look of light.
Zoop. Give it the old zoop, Joe.
That's it.
Okay. Zoop.
All right, maybe we need a little bit of fill in here. I'm intentionally rounding. This is just kind of a perspective trick here, is thinking of my point of view being in the middle of the picture, which it doesn't have to be. You could shift it anywhere, but when you're at one point looking out, if you get a wide angle, it becomes a circle around what am I trying to say? You end up seeing a circular pattern in the ripples because of your angle to those ripples. You've got a gradient happening that's angle based, and your angle is based on being in the middle of a radius, right? So as you look around, I'm curving these up so that it has the feeling of looking up through a bright spot of water. If I were to just go straight across, I really think you would find this highly effective. It's not just like just trying to add information to my video here. Really, I think this is something that's helpful. It feels like you're in the picture much more if you make this curve based on where you want your center to be perceived. So that slight curve on just the direction of the brush strokes, I'm just sloping them kind of in a smile shape. Imagine a circle that's right over my head. If I looked straight up out of the water, imagine a circle, and this is the further edge of the circle as it approaches the edges of the picture. Like this would happen on a camera. And I just started to notice it in photos and started to understand why it's there. And I thought, that's kind of a good component to use to suggest that we're in a 3D environment looking around. It has a better feel, in my opinion, than if I go straight across with my gradient. If just straight across has this flattened feel to it. Again, we're talking about feel.
What's straight about it? Is anything really straight about it? I don't think so. It's like on we're on a sphere. The waves are all curvy. You know, like
Yeah, right.
like
Yeah.
where's the reason for straightness? I don't see it.
Well, as an artist, you just kind of tend to fall into the habit of a horizon going straight across. So I would say it's something that occurs out of habit, and I've done it a million times. You know, it's like it's based on distance. We have a gradient based on distance. As we get closer, we see more the light that's up out of the water. So we imagine the whole canvas coming closer, in a parallel way, you know. But I'm thinking of that gradient of closer and further coming from all angles to a single point rather than coming straight perpendicular to my window. Right?
Yeah,
Is that
well,
making
you know,
sense?
you accurately called it a radius. You know, I think where you like if you consider yourself as a fixed point, and then you draw
Yeah.
a line from your eyeball out to whatever object you're looking at, and then you look around at the world.
Yeah.
You're basically at the middle of a sphere, at the middle of a snow globe. You know,
I am
looking out.
the fixed point at which perception is accurate and truthful.
So you're creating. Yeah, exactly. There is that is the source of all that is true.
It's fixed. It's a fixed point.
And everybody else's source is garbage.
Wrong. Yeah.
Welcome to 2025. Okay, I digress. Anyways,
yeah. I had to throw that in there. Sorry, that's my bad.
That is why, you know, that water looks good when you give it that little curvy thing, because it's, you know, it's the surface of your sphere of perception.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's just, and when I'm doing grass in a meadow, I'll have a gradient where the top of the grass is a different color than where I can see deep down where the dirt is at the base of the grass. So as I get further in the field, you know, I've got another horizon and it's getting lighter as I get further because I'm seeing only the tops of the grass. Well, that also looks good since that's on the ground, the curve becomes like a frown instead of a smile. Same thing. I'm imagining a circle beneath me, and the gradient is caused by angle. It's caused by point of view. It's not an absolute gradient that occurs from anywhere. So something to think about. You know, it's a handy trick when you're doing a scene like this, is remembering the circular perspective. It can look cool. All right.
Yeah, you know, odium imbus. Wait,
that's a great username. Great username.
Odium imbus. Odium imbus.
Okay.
Odium imbus says. Oh wait, no, they're helping me. Odium imbus. 2 words. Thank you. Says.
Odium imbus. Okay.
Most people's problem. I love statements to start with this.
Most people's problem. Good job. Well said.
Most people's problem with painting is they rely too much on pictures and never actually learn the natural movements and balance of the mind.
Hey, I think that definitely can be. To give you credit where it's due, I do think you're hitting on a thing that can be a problem. I wouldn't feel worthy to diagnose the most people, but you know, it can be a problem. To your credit, I can relate to that.
Common. It's a common thing for sure. They say once you learn those, you can paint anything, anywhere, anytime.
Anything, anywhere, anytime. Yeah, right.
You know, which is just what you were doing. We started out this thing today with you just looking at a bunch of pictures of fish, right, in different angles.
Yeah. I'm just looking at them. Yeah. Yep. So I think there's balance to be had there, as you know, something I'm trying to be better at as time goes on, trying to balance perspectives. You know, not everybody gets joy out of the process of painting anything from any angle anywhere. So some people, and my own family, my own children included, really enjoy the process of following instruction. It's therapeutic, it's fun, it's creative outlet, and they have no goal to be able. Now there's, you know, argument on both sides. They might find themselves in a moment someday when they wish they could render something just as they're imagining it. But I wouldn't say that they ought to be practicing. I wouldn't take it upon myself to say that they ought to be practicing that way.
Sure. Well,
It's kind of
odium imbues is clarifying here. What they mean is that you can replicate light on an object in pictures, but to know how light works and apply it on an object as you are drawing requires the mind. So basically the same thing
true.
you're saying.
True, yeah.
You know, you can just carbon copy another picture, but it's far more empowering to just understand how the light is interacting with objects in general, and then you can put light in objects anywhere, any way you'd like. You know?
Yeah, it's a powerful tool. I in my career, I am asked to render things. Like, here's an idea, can you bring that to life? So for me, that's kind of the gold pot is understanding how to simulate these things, and of course with that observation. I just got all tongue tied there. I was looking for the right word. Simulate.
I'm a words guy, and I've never heard that word.
Yeah, right.
But that's why they like your work. They say because you dig into perspective, light, physics, and understanding how it all works together.
Thanks. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. That's good to hear. Yeah, I agree. It's very empowering. To me, it's a huge thrill to get on a canvas and say, here's what I want to see, and just start going. You just hit the start button and you start building it. That is a very satisfying feeling. I'm not going to pretend that that's not the case.
Yeah, right. And then Bearded chiming in here with, bro, been watching you paint water for what feels like 10 years. And every time you do it, you knock it out of the park, dude.
Thanks for the encouragement there. Thank you. I appreciate it. Very nice of you to say that.
I love painting orcas, but y'all know what he's really painting is water. Come on.
What? That's good. Yeah, that was just an excuse to do a water scene. I spent a couple minutes throwing this orcas. Okay.
Hey, next week, guys, we're going to be painting shrimp.
Yeah.
Seaweed.
How to paint? Yeah, right.
Hey, we're going to be painting pebbles on a shore, guys.
What about the underside of a boat? You ever painted a person swimming from a distance underwater? Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's a good, call out, kind of calling me out on that one. It does get views. Whenever I do a water scene, it tends to do better with views. And I'm not going to pretend like I'm not aware of that.
Hey,
but
at
the same time, what reaction would everybody have if I did these orcas and botched the water? I mean, if I was like, there's the orcas, don't worry about the water. I've already done that a million times.
Dude, taillights. Nothing but taillights.
Yeah. That's what's going to happen.
You're like, cool fish, bro. I'm pretty sure I can do better than that.
Yeah. It's meh. It's par.
Yeah. That's a solid 5.6 out of 10, Joe.
Yeah.
Solid 5.6.
Right. That's what I think would be the reaction. That'd be it.
Orcas
okay.
Water.
All right. So we got our kind of circular. I might have gone a bit extreme on the circular ripple patterns, but it's just a first pass. I'm getting the colors, the gradient in place.
Yeah, you're doing this in an hour and a half, and you got about a half hour to go here. So, you got to make
there you go.
work. Let's invoke the majesty of the great Bob Ross and just get some stuff done quickly here. No need to fuss with detail.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Let's capture the essence and move.
Like that attitude. So dealing with edges kind of comes to play here. It's like you want beautiful edges in something that's known for its sleek, attractive shape. So I'm going to overlap those. I'm not going to sweat it when I'm painting the water. I want to focus on painting water. I don't want to be bogged down with trying to mind the edges. I mean, to the extent that it's easy, I'll stay off those edges, but see how I just kind of wisp over them? Because coming back and touching up edges is not a daunting task. So I tend to go back and forth. I'll half paint the orcas, half paint the water, and then I'll paint these to a higher level, paint this to a higher level. Because every time I cross those edges, I'm not losing a lot of time. It's not a big loss.
I do the same thing in my workflow as I'm cutting together any sort of video or film or commercial or anything. I do the rough cut, and then I do the more detailed pass that cleans things up. Then I do the color, and then I do the sound mix, and I get into the nitty gritty. But first is just very quickly throw stuff together, see if it's starting to work or if you're heading the wrong direction before you get
direction.
This and that pixel,
That's right. Yeah. You want to learn that wrong direction early.
Yeah. Hey, check this out. RDNAC is like, they're kissing.
They are kissing. We saw some on the inspiration for in our search. We saw some kissing. The caption said they were
kissing here. I don't know about that.
Well, that's kind of a weird kind of kiss. It's like kissing the butthole. Right there.
Maybe they see this orca being the other way around. Like
maybe.
Well, that orca's a brown noser, man.
Yuck. What am I painting here? We got to put some we better implement some perspective here to get that to get those distance. We need distance. That's what the atmosphere is going to do. I'm going to tackle that.
Yeah.
This is the humor of painting is whenever you try to make beauty, the path to beauty is ugly. It's because
hold up. Just sit on that statement for a second, you guys. The path to beauty is ugly.
Yeah, it really is. Because you got to work your way there.
That's profound, man. It's profound.
Yeah, because in my perception, let's just say in my perception, I feel like ugly is something that sets us up for expectation of beauty without delivering. And you hit that. Inevitably, you have to go through that. Like you've called it the uncanny valley. You got to go through that on your way to getting something beautiful. You know what I mean? And so as you develop, like you're sculpting, let's say you're sculpting a human form, and well, at some point you've got something that's partly beautiful, but it's like triggering your beauty eyes while delivering the opposite because it's all crude and crooked, and like maybe you make one part of the body all lopsided. You first start, you know what I mean? So it's like it triggers your want for beauty because we have that, like we have this desire to experience beauty, and that gets triggered when you look at something. So when you trigger it without delivering, it's a disappointing experience. And this is my theory on what makes things unattractive to us. It's like, oh, that's trying very hard to be beautiful, but it's disappointing me.
Right.
It's an ouch kind of a reaction. I can't go too in depth because if you start getting into specific examples, boy, I'm telling you, get taken off of YouTube. So we don't want to do that.
I don't know, dude. There's some pretty wild stuff on YouTube that's flying right now. So swing away.
Yeah, speech is freer than ever, right? Is it?
Well,
did I get that wrong?
Cornelia, what up? Welcome from Australia. That's awesome. And then Odium Imbues is saying here's an idea. They say the longer you stare at a beautiful person's face closely, the uglier each aspect really is. That's why people smiling or their movements is what actually makes them attractive. Well, that's an interesting take.
Yeah, that makes me say
I'm gonna chew on that one.
Because that's a little bit hard for me to just agree instantly that the longer you look at me, the uglier I get.
Yeah, hey, we are just throwing stuff at a wall here. Let's go.
Yeah. All right. Well, I like it. I'm not going to report anybody.
No, man.
I like it. I like free thinking.
If you stared at... Oh, you know what? Actually, I heard a story, and this is relevant. I heard a story about a person that had this disorder where if they looked at a person's face, if they stared at them for too long, their face started to like morph. and like eyes would droop, and their face would like if you were on acid or something, right?
Whoa.
Like, I've never done acid.
Yeah,
like I imagine
that's wild.
how it kind of like morphs, and there was this disorder a person had, and they
that's like a real thing, huh?
Yeah, they figured this was a thing. This was just like there was something
They're like, this is just the way
wrong with people's faces, and they were just
yeah,
horrified
it's just,
of being
yeah,
alive
because if it's all you've ever seen, that's just reality, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so they would look at a person's face, and the longer they looked at it, the more like horrific that face became.
Yeah, boy, can you imagine going on a date and you're
so they would have to look away often to survive in the world, you know.
And then you think that it's just something that everybody experiences, so you're like, hey, we're starting to get ugly, so let's look away for a little bit. You want to? And then your date is like, what?
Yeah, RDNAC suggests that disorder is called tripping balls.
It's
very common. It's a very common.
I'm not familiar with it, I'll say that.
Yeah, no, it's very it's not pleasant. Not pleasant. You don't want
not pleasant. You don't want to get that disorder. Well, I'll tell you one thing. I've experienced the opposite happening. My imagination is very exercised. I'll say exercised and seeing what I want to see on a blank canvas, right? So I think that works against me a lot of the time when I'm looking at an image, because it tends to psychologically morph into what I want to see. And well, when it's more basic, I don't think that gets in the way too much. But when I'm doing the nuances of a human face, at the end of a long day and I'm fatigued, I'm looking at that face. I use my hands to think. You know, this, for those of you tuning in right now, this is not a human face. I am not under the impression.
Yeah.
It tends to morph it into something that looks better than what someone walking in cold sees. You know, I noticed that because then I come in the next morning and I'm like, whoa, my imagination was telling me what I wanted to hear. You know, it's a real, that for me, that really happens.
Yeah, right. Okay. So here I am doing a little research here, just so you guys know, I'm not completely full of it. The neurological disorder where faces appear distorted, sometimes looking quote unquote demonic, is called prosopometamorphosia.
Okay.
Or
I would say we have a new vocabulary word, but I don't.
This rare condition. This rare condition causes people to experience visual distortions of faces, including changes in shape, size, texture, and color, primarily when viewing people in person. So,
wow, that's wild. It's a real thing. It's a real thing.
All that to say, subjective perception matters.
It does. It does. You know, listening to what people are experiencing is good practice, I think. For sure. So, you know, in a more practical sense of that, you're an artist, and you've been through all kinds of trauma because you got art teachers breathing down your neck, telling you this needs to be better on this count, but they don't give you any real examples. They're just saying it needs a better feeling. It needs to feel this way, that way. You know, you're just getting all judgment about, well, it feels off balance. You need to make it more balanced. You know, it's lacking harmony. You need to have harmony.
Yeah.
What do those things even look like? What is that? Who gets this? Yeah. And so you develop, you build this tough skin, right? And it's for survival. You got to.
There's a guy on Instagram, and he puts out all these reels, you know, where he's this big buff cool guy, and he just drives around town with his windows down, and he films people on the sidewalk as he's going by, and he's a big thuggish looking dude, right? So he'll come up to some big thuggish looking dude, and he'll be like, "Hey, bro, what's up? Hey," and they're like, you know, they come up, you know, like, what you want, you know? And he'd be like, "Hey, can you give me some of that?" And
he just said jibber jabber.
Like, what? He's like, yeah, you know where the city is. You know, and they're like,
he's just messing with them.
Excuse me, you know, yeah, this is his with the, you know, he starts making
stuff you can't understand.
They're being played, but
the
point is, That's useless. That is useless information. They're trying to help him out. They want to help him figure out where is the thing that he's looking for. What is the tool that he's trying to? How do you make beauty? How do you make stuff look real? And he's just giving them, you know, like
yeah.
that's
You
how
get
it feels.
nonsense.
That like, can you just feel your way through it?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, you've just
can you
been unhelped.
just
Yeah.
create inspiration. You know, to me, when I hear those things, I hear, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's like, can you, so I need to accomplish what and use what to do it? You know?
yeah, it's gibberish,
So,
gibberish.
yeah, it's very frustrating. So you develop this tough skin because the criticism doesn't feel good and you don't even have a way out of it. You're like giving criticism without even giving a clear path forward. And that's very, very frustrating. So anyway, my point in bringing that up is that we can tend to not listen to some really actual helpful things by even rude people. Sometimes I think the untrained public give the best criticism, actually. I think when you go to an art class, you get it's what do you call it? Like processed criticism. It's gone through like the factory of what should be, but it is not helpful. But when you hear the public walk by and say, that makes me feel bad, you're like,
Yeah,
okay,
right.
that was actually a completely honest reaction. So you got to watch out not to get too tough of a skin that you can't. It's hard. You know, I'm going to be the first to admit that I'm sensitive and it's hard. But you know,
well, you know, I'm in the business of commercializing art. You know, my art is my living. Like
okay.
you know,
Yeah.
we sell our creativity and our craft. And so for us at the
That's it.
company I
Yeah.
work at, we've outright decided it does not matter what we think is best. It matters how it is received.
How it's
Because
received. Yeah.
that is the reality that you're dealing with. You know, you might think it's this, you might think it's that, but it is done when the person receiving it feels the way they need to feel.
Yeah. 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 I think that's on the money.
That is the objective public opinion that you speak of, you know.
Right. So the purpose of everything is probably not to please the public. Like art has its purpose, right? Which is diverse. The artist decides the purpose of the art, if you ask me. You know, so this applies to when you're trying to please the public, it doesn't pay to ignore what the public says. But as artists, we literally do that. We literally dismiss the reaction of the very people we're trying to impress. You know, so that's self-defeating. I've just noticed that tendency in
paradoxical,
myself.
I would say. It's paradoxical.
Yeah, it is. But I think you don't put all the logic together in a reactive state where you just feel an insult. You know what I mean? And you're like,
yeah,
well, that feels really bad. And so you just build up this thick hide that bounces back and doesn't hear it. And I'm so guilty of doing that. And then I've done public murals and forgotten that I'm doing them for the public. It's probably going to pay off.
Well, that's the key is what are you doing it for? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it therapy? Is it expression? Is it like processing? Well, then, yeah, just listen to yourself and nobody else. Who cares, right?
Yeah.
But you'll end up with who cares, you know?
Yeah, you're gonna end up with as far as that reaction, as far as that viewer goes. Yeah.
So valuable for the therapy, valuable for emoting, for doing your thing, your way, but with it, who cares? You know?
Yeah.
There's a balance to be struck, like we were talking earlier. There is a place where the subjective and the objective are both valued, you know, because I like to matter. I like to make work that impacts, that registers with people, you know. I've spent a lot of my life just doing what I want my way because it feels how I need it to. And I grew bored of it. And now I want to matter, you know. So
right. You have to.
Both.
Right.
Consider both.
They both have their place. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
So when you're trying to make something generally pleasing, it can be a shooting yourself in the foot kind of a deal when you can't listen to the general public, like some random person coming by and giving an honest reaction that's kind of hurts your feelings, you know. Yeah, it's something worth working on.
Well, there's not, to add a little bit to it, I don't think there's a right way or a right place to be making work from. Like, who cares why you're making work? Make work for whatever reason you want, to whatever end you want, or don't.
Yeah, right.
Like,
right.
It's just up to you, So, whatever you need it to be, let it be that. If you need it to be a thing for you, then who cares what anybody else says? As Odium Imbues says, you got to do it for you. If it's good for you, it's going to be good for others. Well, that's hopeful. It's hopeful that it's going to be good for others, but you really want to consider the perspective of others and use empathy and understanding of other perspectives if you really want it to land. But if it's okay, if it doesn't land, then who cares about empathy and multiple perspectives?
Right. Yeah, I think it's just a subject that pays to think through instead of have knee-jerk reactions. Knee-jerk reactions kind of shoot you in the foot because your feelings are involved. I was just now looking at
something to be aware of. It's not a recipe,
Yeah, right. What I wanted on those photos, I was looking at how soft is the edge of this white part of my whale. So here, I want this shape coming through, and I noticed that they have individuality. These things, it's not an exact. I was looking at the many shapes, and that's kind of fun when you learn the elements of a subject, as in the thing you're painting, that are variable. So, like, there's not an absolute right shape to this. There's a general pattern. So I was kind of trying to get a read on, should I make it like a razor sharp edge that suddenly cuts from the white to the black, or should I make it a little softer? I'm big on edges and gradients. Anybody watching my more recent videos can put that together. And so the whole picture to me is this assembly of edges and gradients. And I just want to do a good job. So here I'm going to make a softer, see that little bit of a softer wisp, to me is going to be an improvement on my picture. Let me cut into that a little.
Arnaldo, what up, Brazil? With like 1, 2, 3, 4 flags, like 4 big eyeball things, like 3 thumbs ups.
Nice, thanks.
Thumbs ups or thumb ups?
Thumb up. Oh man, the age-old question. Yeah. How do you do a plural compound word? Passerby. How many passers-bys? How many passerbys? Passers-by. Where do you put the S?
And check this out. Apparently, there's also a disorder where people are blind to faces. So you're looking around the world and everything is just, and then you look at a face and you don't see it at all.
No way. That's not real.
Leanne is calling it prosopagnosia, face blindness. Blindness.
Dude, that's crazy.
That'd be wild.
Yeah. Well, Leanne's not the fibbing type. I know this about her. So there's got to be something to that. Some of these people watching right now, they're big fibbers.
Hey, some of us making this content are skilled in the art of the fib.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We need reflection. Reflection doesn't cease to happen underwater. You got to have reflection.
One time, you and I, we were born into a family of 5 boys. And so one time, maybe $5, $10, maybe $20 came up missing from my parents' purse. And they
who
noticed.
Did it?
Okay. And they lined us up and said,
Who did it?
Yeah. It's times like that when a 10-year-old boy really learns to work on his fib.
Yeah. I was the guy that would point to my brother and say, it was him.
What do you think? It was this idiot.
I would throw any one of you under the bus instantly. Wouldn't even think about it.
Yeah. So
Man.
Leanne's saying, you see the face, you just don't recognize it. You don't know who they are, you know. So
Oh, okay,
no,
okay.
no
I got it.
facial recognition ability.
Oh, wow, that's fascinating because
Right.
you know, as I've been practicing with faces, it's you know, it's something that's on my radar, come to my attention. Like this is a fine-tuned system, face recognition. This is like you're relying on some instant reacting, let's just say software that you don't choose. You know what I mean? Like you don't choose to. I think I'm going to figure out whose face this is. You don't do that. It just happens
Right.
for you. And like we got to write long programs for computers to do that.
Dude, okay. So the reason I'm in Arizona, I'm normally in Long Beach, California, but the reason I'm in AZ is because I got a nephew here that's graduating high school, and he's got a little sister, got a niece. She's 14, and she looks very different in makeup with curly hair and a dress than she did 6 months ago without. Right, and so I walk into this ceremony to see this family I haven't seen in a minute. And I look at this young woman and I'm like, I do not even recognize her. You know, like her face,
man.
the makeup, the hair, the thing.
Crazy.
My brain was struggling to produce a convicted conclusion as to who I was even looking at. And it was so strange because I've known this person since they were born, you know. But the speed at which they're changing, and then the even greater speed of change because of makeup and wardrobe, you know, it was the strangest feeling to be looking in the eyes of someone I've known for 14 years and be struggling to come to a conclusion that this is in fact that person.
Dude, that's weird. Yeah, right. But I've gone through the same thing. I'll see kids around town that I've taught art to when they were little, and that throws a curveball. Hi, Mr. Cornelius. I'm like, hey. Man, it's so good to see you.
Hey, guy. Hey, man.
So, how have you been anyway?
Oh, dude.
White is a neutral. So I'm in a blue environment, so I got to be careful not to make this white just white. You know, if I really want this underwater look, I got to add some of my atmosphere color to that so that it ties into that environment, you know. Just changing the subject here.
Hey, well, while we're changing subjects, what up, Tyler MacD from Indiana?
Nice.
Over there in the Midwest.
Good to have you here. Good to have you here.
Yeah, we know about Indiana. We grew up next door in Ohio.
Nice. Fun. Yeah. No, that's true. That is next door. Cool.
And then Mavis is saying, you know, it's amazing how our expectations can affect our perception and understanding of what we see. I believe what you are referring to there is confirmation bias.
You know, that ties in. Yeah. Right.
What we are looking for, we find. That's
I was just listening to something on that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, this is like known researched stuff, right? I mean, confirmation bias is used with sleight of hand. It's used with con gains.
Yeah, it's used in all walks of life here, in politics and many other things.
It's a tool. Yeah, a tool for control is understanding the principle of confirmation bias. So I just want to point out real quick, you know, because this is fun to talk about confirmation bias, but that actually, you know, it applies, and I'm just now thinking of it, but that's really what you're doing is meeting expectation. In a painting, people have expectations. Like if you've never seen orcas and you've never seen water, this might be a very strange picture to look at. Like, what am I looking at? It looks coherent, like something's going on, but I don't know what it is. Well, when I put blue in I always talk about two things telling the same story. When I put blue and make this color darker than what's up here, I'm confirming what I'm trying to trigger the imagination to build what it's seen before. Build a scene with orcas, and here's what it looks like. I mean, really, that's kind of the way a picture works, in my opinion. It's not. I guess this might be trying to make it deeper than it is, but the picture you're painting is not the end product. It's the picture that the viewer sees, which is influenced by that confirmation bias. So we're always making some level of impressionism because we're trying to cause that viewer's imagination to put the pieces together as we intend. Well, perhaps in this genre of art. Sometimes you might randomize it and say, let the viewer see what they want to see. That's, fair game.
Yeah. Jonathan here, he's got a similar experience to you. He's saying when he knows someone from church or work, and then they've only met a few times, and then he sees them out in the store or public, he has a hard time remembering who they are.
Yeah, right. Yeah, man.
That logging of faces, the ability to retain. It's it's often said that I'm good with faces, not with names. How many people say that?
Yeah. Anybody that's
I'm good with names, not so much with faces. Nobody says that.
Nobody says that because we're all good with faces. That's natural. Nope.
Yeah.
Correction. We just heard that some people are not good with faces.
Yeah. Maybe some weirdos are good with names, not with faces.
Yeah. Well, apparently it's
Jonathan,
a condition.
Are you a weirdo? Are you a weirdo, Jonathan Scott?
Apparently there's a condition that makes you not see the faces. So we have to acknowledge that. Okay, the eye. We don't even need an eye in this, but I feel like I studied and I want to put the eye in because I did all this work to know where it is.
Well, it's 10 a.m. here. We've been at it for an hour and a half.
That's time to quit.
Imbues is curious if these whales are in some shallow water. Maybe we want to see coral reef. Maybe this, that. They've got ideas.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Let's pause it for the next live stream. How about? Because I can't put that together in the time we've got. I think that's a really great idea. So I'm putting soft light, it's kind of a fun thing to do is putting the little reflections on. Notice that studying of the location of that forehead, I think really pays off at this point because it's like when I'm doing this highlight, I'm not just doing it any old place. I'm thinking I'm going to put this little highlight on the nose. If this were a bottlenose dolphin, I'd go back further. So, it's just I studied that 3D shape so that when I do this, I'm getting I just feel like it's a more intuitive. Oh, that's not the right word. It's more enjoyable. Yeah. I feel when I wrap my head around what I'm doing when I'm doing it, instead of just referencing the photo. It's certainly a legitimate way to do a picture, just referencing a photo.
Joe, here's an interesting thing for you to think about while you're painting these whales, adding shadow detail to bring out the three-dimensional curvature of these objects.
Lay it on me. What's a good thing to think about?
Right now, there's a person in Australia. It's 3 a.m. and they're just sitting there watching you paint away these orca whales in the middle of the night, in the darkness, the silence of night, on the other side of the planet. They're just sitting there in the dark. Meanwhile, there's another person who's over there sitting on their porch in Indiana. It's sometime in the afternoon. The birds are chirping.
Right.
And they're sitting on the porch just listening to the birds chirp away while watching you paint whales.
Yeah. Very poetic. I like it.
Isn't that interesting? That's what's happening right now, guys. You guys are spitter-spattered all over the globe. It's the middle of the night. It's the middle of the day. Some of you are listening to crickets. Some of you are listening to birds. And we're all just sitting here talking about nonsense. Painting whales.
Totally. Well, I like the way you poetically kind of painted that picture, Ben. That was nice. A painter with words.
Yeah, words are my colors.
Yeah. All right. That's cool.
What up, Lexi in Nebraska?
I don't know if this one's going to translate so well. This is something where I have to composition, I got to be careful with composition. I want the tail of this whale, but you can put things in awkward places. You know what I mean? Like this is a situation where it's like, maybe that's not the best place. There's photos that deal with the same problem, like where things are in the frame matters. So this is kind of awkward because I've got this shape that seems unnecessarily related to the shape that it's against. I used the atmosphere color to make it further away, but I wouldn't say it's like on the money anymore, that little tail. Maybe it's all right. We'll let it
There
simmer.
you go, you guys. We promised you failure, and Joe delivered.
That's it. This is that moment where it's like, well, that didn't work great. Let's put some reflection on it. Like that. Yeah, it kind of looks like there's a bump going on now. You know, even though I applied the atmosphere color that's supposed to work, that was supposed to work, you know, yet here I am. So, you know, the thing you get stuck with is, well, composition does matter a lot, you know, like where you put things. You don't get the privilege of just saying I did it right, therefore it should look good. It's not quite that simple.
Man, we got somebody else watching the ocean and barges go by. We got another one who saw a little red fox walking across their yard.
Nice.
I mean, like, isn't that cool? It's just churning. This beautiful world's just churning all around us while we watch it happen and paint pictures of it. I'm into it.
Dude, awesome. Oh, there we go. There's a nice belly shot. I needed to see what the belly looks like.
Whoa.
On that. That's a good belly shot. A white stripe all the way down to the tail. Look at that. That's pretty cool. Let's verify.
Well, Mural Joe, I got about 5 minutes left in me before I get kicked out of where I'm at. So
we gotta quit. We gotta quit.
What do you think? What do you think you want to do next?
Well, we got to put maybe a swimmer would be good. Maybe we like put a swimmer in the water with them. You know, but no, not painting it now. Are you talking about next on the?
Like right now.
Next, okay. That was a misread on my part.
Like in the next 300 seconds.
We got to wrap it up. We got to quit.
Okay.
We got to call it. We got to call it a day. Say, have a nice weekend. We're going to come back.
Et cetera.
You think you're going to be around, Ben? You think you're going to be around for next weekend? Should we do a live or should we put up a...
Yep, I'll be around.
Put up a recording from the archives. Which way are we going to go?
I'll be around. Hey, check this out before we go, Joe.
I'll be around. Okay, let's check it out.
All right. So...
We're going to go over to the...
go to the check it out window.
Let's check it out. Let's see what you got.
Hey, so
it's coming. It's coming.
So
I'm ready.
I'm telling you, man, it's just this is just so intense. All right.
Nice.
Man.
Good painting.
So here's one from Tyler. Tyler wanted to say what's up, show you what he's working on.
Wow, you're really doing that, huh? That's awesome. That is really, really beautiful work. Love the gradients.
I'm sorry, Jacob. Jacob wanted you.
Sorry, Taylor. Tyler, you also do beautiful work, but this is not yours. So
yeah, sorry, man, Tyler. Jacob.
Yeah. This is how we do it. Jacob, nice work, man. No, this looks beautiful. Nice gradients on that. The foliage is really, it's not just going left, right, up, down. It's coming toward me. That's really, really great work making that bush pop out. Same with the field here. The greens in there, man, they're popping forward, and you know, you got amazing depth of shadows.
It's got a certain calm and tranquility to it.
Yeah.
Certain softness.
Yeah, fantastic work with the perspectives. Yep. Perspectives, I said. I made it plural. I meant perspective.
Yeah.
All right, time to go. Your 300 seconds is up.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good seeing you. So we're going to get on here next weekend. Do the same thing.
Yep. Good to see you, Joe. Good to see you all.
Okay.
Enjoy your individual globes out there, guys. It's a beautiful life.
So poetic.